John Hinckley. Was it John Hinckley? No, that's the guy that shot Reagan.
Great comparison.
Who's the guy? Hey, Anthony, where'd you get this podcasting stuff from?
It fell off the back of a truck. Put a pin in that. We're back, Breaking Bread. I'm here with my co-host, Sal the Voice.
How you doing?
And Greg, our very own Greg, G Money Hines, is here today.
Why-yo?
Just to give a little background, Sal, when I called Sal and I was like, Greg's got to be on the podcast, he goes, okay. And like it was like with happiness and confusion at the same time.
Sure.
So the last time, before you were the co-host, I posted a picture of like him announcing he was going to be on, and the episode never came.
That was 2 fucking years ago.
And
it never aired.
So everyone watching at home, your letters worked, and Greg is
Writing to Santa Claus. We want to see Greg.
Greg's mom, if you're watching this is
Don't watch it. Turn it off.
Mom, I don't even know.
his mom is totally gonna watch this.
She's gonna watch it.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I saw the video. Why
She's
did you
gonna
say
watch
that?
it. She's gonna figure out how to cast it to the TV so
Oh,
she can show
100%.
everyone when they come over.
100%.
I'm gonna get texts from my aunts and uncles. You're like, oh my God, we saw you. And I'm like, why are you watching?
Greg, do you have siblings?
I do.
Someone should tell your mother.
Is the middle child syndrome that bad?
You're the middle child?
You couldn't tell?
No, I always thought you were the baby.
I knew you
Nope.
were going to say that.
Yes.
I knew you were gonna say that. I knew you were going to say that.
Fuck you.
What do you mean?
I know.
No,
I know.
very close to your mom, and normally that's like the baby thing.
Listen, I love my mother, and I know my mother loves me. My mother throws compliments around like manhole covers to me. Your mother adores you
That's
in a way, like,
She does.
that's
Greg.
my mama.
but that's always like the baby. You're the middle child.
My mom calls it like everyone's, in her eyes, her favorite. But we all know that like my
But now that I know the middle child,
Yeah.
a lot more makes sense, Greg.
all right. Well, like we know that my younger sister is the favorite. Me, like I've always been a mush.
I don't think she's the favorite. Greg, I didn't even know she
You
existed.
Ask my brother.
Greg's
ask
sister's
anyone in my
gonna watch this
family.
and be like,
My sister is the princess that can do no wrong, and I am the scapegoat. I am the scapegoat of the family.
Are you?
He's gonna
1,000%. This is the hill I'm dying on.
Wow. But
Greg's sister, I'm sorry.
I don't give a fuck.
but your mother adores you.
Oh no, me and my mom have a great relationship. I adore that woman to the end.
Greg has brought his mother to my shows,
I did.
and let me tell you something. Like, as happy as she was to see me, she was like, you know, like,
Look at Greg.
right.
Well, she had a great time. She had a fantastic.
No,
time.
I did hear
Because she was a night out with Greg, her favorite child.
Well, because we got to spend it
didn't
with G and with who was G's boss?
Alex Carter.
And we got to walk throughout the Paramount, which was fantastic. The event itself was fantastic. We went into the Speakeasy, which is really cool because you're supposed to be a member only, almost like a membership, which is really cool. And then the whole concert itself not only was great, your performance, but I think it was just a cool like mom and son date. I took out my
A
mom.
date.
All right.
I'm gonna cry.
Mama.
Sal, one thing I wanted to talk about so badly, and I knew it was gonna be a huge point of this podcast, is like how we all like got to be friends. Like the trip to California, the hot dogs on shoes, like all the nitty gritty of everything.
Please do not bring
Need
up
to
the
know.
hot dog.
People need to know this story.
So right
At the beginning of time.
We had
Right
a
after
blast
I
that trip.
hired-
That was my favorite California trip.
after I hired Anthony, I had some shows to do in California, and so Anthony and Greg joined me in California, and I took them around L.A. Greg is such a special guy.
Why did you say it like that?
You are. You're a special
A
guy.
special boy.
The editor asked me, she was like, "You guys really roast Greg." I felt bad.
I'm not. I just said Greg is a special guy because Greg is arguably one of the most lovable,
True.
huggable, just like he's just a sweetheart of a guy. But he's
There was a
Oh,
big
there's a
butt.
moment.
There was
Boy.
a big butt.
but he moves like a bull in a china shop. This guy, he's not
It's
graceful.
like Forrest Gump, but like 260.
all the sweetness,
Mama.
none of the grace, right?
A little sprinkle of grace here and there.
He's
Sprinkle.
like a gazelle.
No,
Like a
he's like
buffalo.
a gazelle that leaves the same size footprint as an elephant.
Yeah.
I find it extremely interesting how difficult it is to find any offense with what you do, what you end up, whatever situation you end up creating. Like, I had just bought a brand new pair of white Air Max, Nike Air Max sneakers, because I was a large American, and that's what large Americans wear is those Air Maxes, because they're nice, big, chunky shoes, and all white because we were going to California. I'll tell you what, I'll own up to this, Greg. You got is something going on, Greg? You need a minute?
Ooh.
I will own up to the mistake of having purchased Air Maxes that have the fabric on the top instead of the leather all around. That was my bad.
Tough to get the stains out.
Real tough to get the stains out, especially when those stains are steeped in tomato and vinegar.
Pinks. Talk about a stain. That's
We went to a hot dog place called Pink's on La Brea, and it's a famous little hot dog stand. And Greg gets a hot dog with barbecue sauce and onion rings, because that's what Greg would get. And
He didn't enjoy it.
it was the saddest looking thing. And I'll tell you why he didn't enjoy it. He took one bite. He pulled the whole thing. First of all, every hot dog at this place is a fucking mess of a thing. You would think like you'd pick it up in the paper, right? Greg pulls it right out, full confidence. Takes one bite of this hot dog, and the onion rings are just kind of like haphazardly placed. And for whatever reason, the hot dog slips out the back, bounces off the table, and lands on my sneaker. And all the onion rings stay in place on the bun.
It was almost like a cartoon where like there should have been like a sound effect where the hot dog fell out, and I'm just looking at it with disdain and disappointment.
That's what you're missing. You need someone to follow you around with sound effects. No, that's not what I'm talking about.
All I remember is him saying, "Oh my God,
You're my hot dog."
I stained Sal the Voice's shoe."
Greg is like all
I didn't
three.
even care about the hot
Greg
dog.
is like all three Stooges in one guy. Like, whoop, 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 like.
The trifecta of randomness.
Right. But
Yeah.
But when it comes to being passionate about things, Greg is like I've never seen a guy so intimate with so many subjects, like things at such at random. Like Greg, albeit he's this, social media influencer, this budding rose, if you will, and yet you wouldn't think Greg was a classically trained chef.
Yeah. And he can give you random facts about the Eiffel Tower, like the most random thing in the world.
So my
Oh, no.
siblings hate it because apparently I know everything, which I'm just informational about a certain amount of things, and they call me Bill Nye because I know everything, or Snapple Fact Greg, because it's just random, what I call quips or random thoughts that no one really ever needs to know, but you're kind of just interested because it's cool.
Right.
But yeah, before all the social media stuff, before editing, doing all these food videos, working with Anthony, meeting Sal, creating this conglomerate of Italians versus the Irishmen. Yeah, I went to culinary school. I grew up loving food, as you can tell. And growing up, it was the inspiration that I would always be. I was babysat by my great aunt and my grandmother because both my parents worked full time. And on Saturdays and Sundays, what's on at 9 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 10 o'clock in the morning is food channels. So I'd be watching Martha Stewart, Rachel Ray, Emeril Lagasse, and I just sit on the floor watching these things while my aunts are crocheting or whatever they did, or just watching us. And then it just piqued my interest, and I talked to my parents about going into food. So in Lynbrook, it's called A La Carte. It was a food class store or business, and I would do that in elementary, and then into middle school.
It was a store that had
it's like
cooking lessons?
It's a cooking lesson shop. That's it's like a cooking lesson business, where they just do like
that's all they do is cooking
just
lessons.
cooking lessons.
Wow.
You went as a kid?
Yeah, so I went as a kid. I was a section in. They had like big things in like December. For,
How old are you?
11. Maybe
Really?
10, 11. Probably earlier than that. Yeah.
How
probably.
long did you stick with this for?
So that was for like it was a Christmas present that my parents got me. It was like a 7-day thing over Christmas break where every single day was something new. Working with a bunch of kids who also wanted to cook, and then that went into me just like cooking into middle school, just cooking at home for family events, parties, and stuff. And then in high school, I went to BOCES in Westbury for the culinary arts program, and then I started working in a country club for my first job as a dishwasher and prep cook.
Wow.
And then went into culinary school my sophomore year of college because I went to Nassau for a year just to bring some grades up. I got accepted my junior year of high school to Johnson & Wales, which is where I went. And that kind of catapulted, like, I always liked cooking. It was always part of my passion, but, like, I never really knew what I wanted to do, if I just wanted to stick working in restaurants or actually, like, learn more. And it probably was one of the best decisions I made was going to school for it.
Wow.
Yeah.
So why aren't you a chef? Why aren't we eating at Greg's restaurant right now?
So what a lot of people go through in the culinary industry, and this is what I've seen, I'm not everyone, because everyone has their own take on everything. A lot of people get burnt out. A lot of people get stuck in the
How old are you, Greg?
26.
He's young.
Yeah.
We're old.
Burnt out.
I've been cooking and working in kitchens since I was about 15, 16. And that was just dishwashing.
Whoa. Wait. You were working in a kitchen at 15 years old?
Yeah. It was.
I was wrong. You are not the favorite.
Club of Lake Success. That was the country club. That was
Working
my
in
first
a
job.
country club as a 15-year-old?
While you were in school?
Yeah.
Will you just go after school?
So that was towards the spring season of my sophomore year of high school. I was doing that, and in the summer, I was going to football camp because I was not a football star, but like I also fell in love playing football, so I would go to football practice during the summer, and then after football practice, I would go to work.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
And the whole thing with leaving the kitchen is I worked at a different country club.
And what does a prep cook do?
They basically just prep all the ingredients for the higher up cooks, so the chef, sous chef, chef de partie, or the other like heads. Like I'm basically just chopping onions, peeling potatoes, slicing thousands of tomatoes, peeling 2 cases of eggplant. Like grunt work, the bullshit work of the kitchen. And then what most people do is usually start at the bottom, and then you work your way up. So I was a prep cook for about like 2 or 3 years, and then went away to school. And then about 18, 19, I was working at Mutton Town. That was my first like big job because I was just prep cooking and dishwashing at the other place, so it really wasn't like chef work. And then freshman year of college, I was at Nassau, and I was also working at the club at the same time, prep cook. And then when I went away to school, came back, and they asked me to work on the line. So I was doing breakfast, lunch. I was working the saute station, grill station.
The saute station.
So you were on the front lines.
They basically just threw me in.
And you were going to laugh at that. Is that a bad thing?
Let me take a sip of my drink.
Angry drink. Greg has this thing.
This
called an
isn't
angry
just
drink.
coffee.
So then how do you, like, what happens? Like, did they just, like, leave you off at, because I feel like if you're at saute station, You're like above a prep cook now. You're actually like you're in the
A lot of times,
Vietnam. I feel like
Good morning, Vietnam.
Vietnam. Oh, like you kind of.
I feel like there should be music while Greg's telling this story. Like da da da. da
Hey, what if you
da,
saw
da.
Platoon? Like Greg was in the kitchen, and it's like
This is
bodies
Greg's-
hit the floor.
This is why I wanted to talk to you about cooking, Greg, is because Greg has a very distinctive tattoo on his forearm. It's of the sections of a pig, and Greg is yet not a chef. So I'm wondering, like, there was a point of Greg's life where he was so passionate about cooking because he's a guy who's passionate about many things. And like
True.
you said, he knows a lot about a lot of different stuff, and a surprising amount for a guy who is as cumbersome as Greg. He is very, very bright. What I want to know is, like, there was a point of his life where he was so passionate about food and about cooking that you had a tattoo of the show everyone of the sections of a pig tattooed on your arm.
Yeah, one of the many.
I think I saw that at Mario's Meats and Deli.
Every butcher shop has the sections. Of
And yet this
animals.
guy is not, like, this isn't his thing. I'm like, how come? So you're how old at this point? You graduated culinary school,
Yeah.
right? You are like 21, 22?
2019. Yeah, so I was 22.
22
Graduated
years old.
on my birthday.
You're doing stations. You're
So-
wondering, like, when they're going to bump you up.
So at that point, this was at Muttontown. So I was there at this point. So 22, I was there for 4 years. And this is right before COVID because I graduated in 2019. This is the summer before COVID hit. And they kind of bumped me up to like just like a regular line cook doing fry station, grill station, doing like the parties, the cocktail hour parties, weddings, sweet 16s, doing all like the still kind of grunt work, but like a little higher up than someone who's just peeling 3 cases of potatoes.
It's like you're like it's like factory work.
Yeah.
Like you're not making anything.
I'm not on the top tier, but I'm a little higher up.
You're not doing anything groundbreaking. You're
No.
doing like,
Honestly, the stories Greg has told me, not like a necessarily bad stories, but like the stories you've told me about working in the kitchen, it kind of changed my dining experience. Like it really did.
I'm very informational, but I'll also tell you things that you don't want to know about the kitchen and things that you need to know about the kitchen etiquette, going out to dinner, going out to restaurants, and how like certain things like are done, why they're done, and need to be done, and the way you should kind of act towards it. Because if you don't respect restaurant workers and you don't respect wait staff, bartenders, and you're rude in a restaurant, go fuck yourself, basically.
reason number one to not be rude in a restaurant. People like Greg will spit in your food.
I've never spit in anyone's food. I've contemplated it, but I do believe in karma, where if I did it, it could be possibly done to me. I'm always respectful in restaurants, always polite, tip well, always good conversations.
But what would turn me off to a restaurant?
What do you mean?
You said this stuff like, I know.
So
What's the
Greg, you can't
nitty-gritty?
just say, like, I know the launch codes and then not give us the launch codes.
Give a little highlight, Jesus Christ, highlight reel of like what the most interesting stuff was.
like Vietnam flashbacks.
This is
We're
Greg.
in the trees.
The reason why I wanted to ask Greg about this is I feel like cooking is his personal Vietnam. Like something fucking happened when Greg was a chef
We're in the trees.
that made him not want to do this.
So-
And I'm because he has a tattoo, because he's permanently stamped his body with something that is so specific to this industry. I want to know, there's got to be some like your own personal Vietnam
My own vendetta.
of why you're not,
So I still
cooking is Greg's Vietnam.
I still love cooking. I still love doing my own thing.
What happened, Greg? Tell me about the day you quit.
Actually, no, I should bash on this fucking place because they made me fucking
No,
miserable.
you're not going to call the place out.
People who are
We're not trying to get
No, no.
fucking sued, Greg.
people who worked with me.
Greg.
No.
Let's
People who
speak in
see
very
this.
general terms,
All right,
Greg.
okay. So, what
You worked at a bad place. What happened?
working in the industry? And a lot
TGI
of-
Fridays is a bunch of
TGI
piece
Fridays
of
is
shit
trash.
slave drivers.
TGI Fridays is trash. But so a lot of people that work in the industry know that there are certain key factors of what will make you stay in the kitchen, what will make you leave the kitchen, and a lot of people have become jaded.
What fucked you up, Greg?
Getting there. Give me a moment. I'm building up to the
It's too much bullshit. I want
I
to
can't take it anymore.
Spill the tea.
So what I dealt with, which a lot of people dealt with, is shitty management and toxic work environment. And
Greg, that is so general. Everything is toxic. Masculinity is toxic these days. I want to hear about what did they do to Greg. I want to know what they did to you so I can go back there to
I
a
know what
place
they
that
did.
will not be named.
so, I mean, I can go into specifics. A bunch of shit happened at the country club. As basic as an answer as I can give, because I want to go forward with the story, it was just very toxic management, and I was overworked, working 70, 80, 90-hour weeks, doing the jobs of 3 different people. Like at a certain point when I came back from college, they offered me the position of head line cook. And at a country club, you have members that can dine there. Most places, whether it's a country club or a yacht club, it's usually like a little, what we call a halfway house, where you have snacks, drinks, beers. Maybe you can get like an egg sandwich or a burger or a hot dog. This was a full-blown kitchen, big country club. And at the time, I was 22, 23, thrown into working the line, and I was the hot side. So there's hot side and cold side. Cold side is salads, wraps, everything that's cold. And then on my side, I was doing everything from omelets, burgers, steaks, everything on the fry station, everything. I basically was doing it all. And I was working 70, 80, 90-hour weeks, working 8 o'clock in the morning to 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock at night, which is usually when you work in a kitchen or a restaurant, that's usually normal time, or 10 o'clock to 11. And it was 7 days a week. I maybe had 1 day off every now and then, but it was 7 days a week. And weddings were always Saturdays. I was 8 in the morning to 2 in the morning. And then I'd wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning the next day to go to my shift on Sunday. And a lot of the times with bad management, they overwork the stars. I'm not going to call myself a star, but when I work,
I mean, you just did.
You just did.
I'm a good worker. I'm content.
You're a star.
I'm content with the work that I produce.
He a motherfucking star.
I give it my all, and I will always try my best, because that's what my dad and my mom always told me. Is like, as long as you show up and try your best, that's all you can do. If you fuck up, if you don't fuck up, you learn from it. And certain instances, it was weddings, barbecues, parties. I was doing the job of 3 people, making sure that their stations were set up because they weren't doing their job. I will not let the I will not let the ship sink, because I'd rather have something done right and then not have someone else get yelled at, because then they're going to look at me like, oh, Greg, why didn't you help them out? Why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? So at a certain point, I was doing the job of 3 people. And it just got tired. I just got tired of doing everything all the fucking time. And almost at a certain point, like I fell out of love with cooking because there was no creativity.
It's almost like they rode the championship horse too hard. They ran you in too many races.
Yeah,
This is a much needed therapy session.
a lot of cooks, a lot of people are like, "Oh, you're a pussy. Oh, like you burnt out. Oh, like you did this, you did that. You couldn't hack it." It's like, bro, like a lot of chefs are mentally not there. Drug users, alcoholics, they're fucking, they fuck everyone. It's true. Like if you work in the restaurant industry, everybody's fucking. Everybody's fucking.
It's chefs and
Chefs gone
trumpet
wild.
players.
Chefs gone wild.
They're using all the heroin.
And everyone
Those
has
tattoo artists.
I feel like that's every workplace, though.
but everyone has their. No, but it's very prominent, and everyone has their vice. You look at any cook, there's something wrong with them. You have to be arrogant. You have to have some sort
Look
of.
at Gordon Ramsay.
You have to have something mentally not wrong with you to be able to withstand the work, to withstand the pressure, to withstand working what we call in the weeds, where you're just 18 tickets deep. You got 1,000 things going wrong. The fucking wait staff is fucking up.
And
your line cooks are fucking up.
You're
Lot of
too
war
level.
analogies.
Yeah, you're too level-headed to be in that situation.
And like I did it for a while. Like,
You're not fucked up enough.
well, because I knew what I was worth, and I don't know. They didn't pay me enough to abuse me that much, and that could just be me being me. A lot of people are like, "Oh, if you can't work in the kitchen, you did all this, you couldn't hack it." I'm worried about my mental state because
Tell 'em about that text.
I don't want to be 45 and want to fucking kill myself. And I'm like, oh, I'm working in this restaurant for 30 years and I've moved nowhere. Because a lot of people a lot of line cooks who in the beginning have that passion for cooking, they burn out because
You
they're doing
saw-
the same repetitive thing over and over, and they
You were
lose that
able
passion.
to see your future,
Yeah.
and you realized that it's not what you wanted for yourself. Wow.
And so I was there.
Greg,
for
that's bravery right there.
and I got abusing
Balls.
COVID too.
Balls.
Valor.
It was COVID too. Like we technically weren't supposed to be open, and we were still serving food because it was outside.
Greg, tell him about that text.
We're not going into that.
Really?
Oh, come on.
No.
You were about to call people out before.
You could make it general.
They're gonna know.
Really?
They're not
I don't
watching
want to
this.
deal with that.
Greg, if there was
we
Greg, if there was a text worth talking about, they're not watching your podcast.
I'm not going to drop the name out of respect, but I got the text in the beginning of working with Anthony, and a lot of people still don't know what I do. Like my friends, are like, oh, Greg, I see you all the time. You're in these funny videos. Everyone thinks that our funny videos is what I do full time. No one knows what I do.
I wish.
That
No
I'm
offense.
running 7 businesses' accounts on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. That I'm doing all this work. They think that I'm just slumming it out to fucking Jersey, eating fucking chicken parm, and telling this kid he's an asshole. I mean, every now and then. But so in the beginning,
fine.
of it,
That's a clip right there, editor.
So I'm gonna get into it, but I want to go into leaving the country club. I was working at a beach restaurant on the island, and that kind of was. It was a little bit better, still kind of toxic, but I didn't want to leave the restaurant industry just yet. Worked there for a summer, chaos, but it was fucking fun. It was great, but also like mentally fucked up.
Fun spot.
Fun spot. Leaving there. September, October area, still looking for work. Was on Indeed, was on everything, couldn't find anything. Like they were looking for headline cooks or like head positions paying like $19 an hour. And I'm like, absolutely fucking not. I'm not working 80 hours a week getting $19 an hour. And I got a text at that point because I wanted to go into like the private cooking, had my business cards and everything, was doing like small parties here and there every now and then, doing like small catered events, or like selling. I was doing like meat and cheese boards, not professionally, but it was like these really cool things that I fell in love with because I just loved the way they looked. And so I got a text from great chef that I had the pleasure of working with, Victor. If he sees this, love you. My mom, as you know, is a hairstylist, and one of her customers had seen my card, gave it to him. He's originally from East Rockaway, but he was living in the city at the time, and this guy worked everywhere from Vegas to in Europe. Like, he worked all over. Great chef. Texted me when I was living in Babylon at the time, and he's like, hey, like, I'm looking for someone to be on my team. We're opening up a restaurant, but we're not open yet. Doing training and everything, and that was 2021. That was in November. And I ended up going into this place that was in East Rockaway, which is right next to me, and we ended up creating menus, figuring out the layout of the kitchen, and basically this was my first time ever working in a place that wasn't even open yet. This was my first time starting at a new place that is prepping to be open fully. And it was probably what saved my understanding of why I got into cooking, and it made me fall in love again with cooking. Great chef, great work atmosphere, the bartenders, the bar staff, the bar manager, like everyone. These are all people from my area, from working in the same industry, that understood what it was to treat their workers. And that's when I fell back in love with it. And like, I didn't mind working 40, 50, 60, 70-hour weeks. Like, this was at the point my second home. It was only 5 minutes away from my actual house, which was great. And at that point, I was living in Babylon with a couple of friends, and Anthony had ended up moving in. And
Hi.
at that time, me and him kind of knew each other. We started hanging out. Then we ended up living together.
Can I say what you please said to me one of the first times that you saw me? Please.
I don't even know where this is going, but sure.
All right. So during the height of COVID, my friend Jason had a barbecue.
Oh no.
Not a barbecue. Had a fire pit, and me and Greg knew of each other.
I knew him as an author.
I didn't know who he was, but I knew of him. I saw him in all pictures. Every one of his pictures was with girls on his Instagram. It was Greg and 6 girls, Greg and 2 girls like this. This was everyone. So I was like, damn, this guy, good for him, man.
Peacocking.
Yeah. So
my college days were just projecting just being a fucking.
So, and from what I heard about you, you were a legend. Yo, Greg's the guy that gets in the middle of the dance floor. He gets all the girls to him, talk to you. So I walk into the backyard, and Greg goes, he had a couple drinks. He goes, published author, sign my tits. And that's my first interaction I ever had with Greg.
Oh, I was plastered. Absolutely fucking bonked out of my mind. And I'm like, it's like when you're she's like, oh my God, sign my kid, sign my chest, like a fangirl. And I'm like, oh my God, sign my chest. And he's like, hey, nice to
It just
meet
really
you.
threw me off, but it was cool.
I'm goofy. I'm goofy at the same time of just. No, really.
All right, sorry, but I am cutting you off, but continue with the Babylon story.
Working at Haviland at that time. So this is probably, I want to say March, April of 2021. And Anthony at a certain time has left his previous job because almost at the same time where me and him kind of we're working these jobs where
What'd you do before?
I worked in marketing, but on a smaller scale. So I was a communications associate. I don't know what that is. It's basically a job where you are under someone who probably doesn't know as much as you, and you know more than them. And then I just got the gist that I know more than these people. Why don't I just do my own thing?
Good for you.
I know it sounds really cocky, but it's just the name of the workforce. If you have the experience, you have the name, no one wants to give you a shot.
So you're branching out on your own.
And he's doing the same.
Yeah, so we both.
And Greg's working at a new restaurant that's about to open.
Yeah. So at that time, so March, April, this restaurant's been open for 3-4 months. And we both almost at the same time were at a standstill of we wanted to move forward, but something was holding us back. And I loved working there. Great restaurant. If me and him didn't live together and this didn't happen, I'd probably still be working there. But it was the opportunity of living with a friend at that point, of a new friend that me and him clicked instantly with certain things, whether it was growing up the same way, having our families that were very similar, having the same friend group. It almost felt like I had a cousin that I never knew.
You're gonna make
Eugene.
me cry.
Eugene.
I didn't know he felt this way about me.
Shut the fuck up.
So what's the text?
Not like I said, it just resonated with me and I'm sure Sal, we've talked about it at length. That's what really made me your story was an inspiration to me. You're just a kid from Long Island. You came on AGT. You're saying how you doing to Heidi Klum. And you get there and you sing your heart out. You talk about your family and you're grandma. Inspiration to me. It's stuff like that that made me quit my job. And I saw the same thing with him. When he got that text, I literally want to punch a hole through the fucking wall.
What's the text?
Because it's just jerk off people.
What
that don't believe
happened?
Once we got to that springtime area of 2021, Anthony had
Period.
That period. Anthony had
Area's a place. Period's a time.
Yes.
I just wanted to help you out.
So Anthony at that time, me and him started doing these TikToks of him being the Italian kid from Queens, and I was the Irish guy that had no idea what the Italian culture was. I knew how to cook Italian food. I interned at an Italian restaurant at school. I understand Italian food, but I never understood the culture. And me and him were doing these videos of just the Italian versus the non-Italian stuff, and it blew up, and it was funny. And these people were oh, this is what we grew up with. This kid has no idea what's going on. And at that time, he realized that, like, oh, if we can do this for fun, like, why can't I do this for a business? Whether it's making funny videos or showcasing their product or their company. And the first business, which was, shout out to Fortunatos, he grew up going there all the time. His Nono was part of that group going there for, what, 30, 40 years?
Yeah, since he came to like America, pretty much.
And
Since it opened.
I love telling the story because it was the one day I had off in a while. I think it was like a Saturday or like a Friday or Saturday. And Ant's like, yo, Greg, like, do you want to come with me to Williamsburg in Brooklyn to film at Fortunato's? And I had been there before once when he showed me. And I'm like, you know what? Like, I'm good. I slept a little bit. Like, I have time to kill. Let's go. And we filmed there, and I was just filming stuff just to film because I always love film cooking.
I can show you the world. Right?
And flew there on the magic carpet or his Cadillac.
This is a Disney. This is a
Disney
movie.
I'm for hire. So, like, his Aladdin moment of the magic carpet was his Cadillac. And we drove there. And I always filmed my food. I just never did anything with it. I always liked the aspect of, like, filming what I did.
He did always film his food.
And I was just filming. And when he did his first video, like, he took some of the footage that I did. He's like, yo, like, this is, like, kind of good. Like, do you want to come film with me every now and then? And I was like, okay. So at that time, I was working at the restaurant a couple of days, and then I would go film with Anthony 1 or 2 days out of the week.
All day long. I got to give him credit.
Yeah.
He'd be there, like, geez, God knows how many hours a week, and then he'd spend the whole two days with me straight, 2 hours home, like, back in traffic as we were out in Babylon.
Yeah, it was an hour and a half, 2 hours both ways. And it was getting to the point where the beach restaurant, it was coming to that summertime where the beach restaurant wanted me back, and they offered me the sous chef position. And what they were offering me is what I was making at Haviland. And I told them, like, well, this is how much I'm making now. And I was the grill guy, so I was doing steaks, burgers, all, like, the meat and everything. And I'm like, what you're offering me right now is what I'm making right now, and you want me to be the sous chef. And they're like, oh, well, it's all about experience, and we'll take you in. And these are the same people that were leading me on after I left the previous season, because as a beach restaurant, you have seasons. So these people were the same people that were leading me on. They're like, oh, we're trying to find you work. Meanwhile, these people own a bunch of restaurants on the island. And there were a couple of them that were near me when I was in Babylon. And they're like, oh, like, we can definitely find something for you. This went on for, like, months. And I'm like, you're telling me, like, you can't find something for me? And there's literally, like, 5 or 6 places near me. And me and him start working more. Summertime or springtime comes, and I get a text. I'm like, the whole sous chef thing. And I'm like, I'm not working a bigger position with more work and more hours for the same amount of pay. And they were all basically like, oh, like, don't bitch out. Like, this is all about experience. We'll take care of you. And I'm like, you guys haven't been.
They said, don't bitch out.
Yeah. Don't call
Don't
out.
bitch out on the free labor.
Hey, do you want this job? No. Fuck you. What?
And I get a text after denying it.
Wow.
And I didn't even say the text.
What was the text?
So the text read, enjoy making your stupid TikToks, and I hope you enjoy not making money when you could be making $1,000 a week here. And I'm like, didn't even respond to it. Wasn't even worth the thumbs working for a response.
How does it feel now that people still call your TikTok stupid, just on a grander scale?
I mean, when it first came out, I'm like, how are these people making fucking money? And now that I'm running these pages and I'm working on my own time and I'm doing what I'm doing.
Right. So in other words, it's your TikToks aren't stupid because you're putting. I think what they didn't realize is that you were leaving to put TikToks together for people.
Yeah.
You and Anthony are in a business where people like myself pay you guys a decent amount of money every month, and basically what you return is kind of traffic to their social media.
Yeah.
So that's a real thing. I don't know why they would have told you to screw off. It's just very different from working in a kitchen, you know? It's a lot more laid back. I think that what they were saying is, we don't get it. this guy doesn't like pressure, and it's true. You don't like pressure. You're not a high risk situation type guy. Like you want something laid back on your own time. So in reality,
I wanted something where I had my moment to shine, where instead of I felt like I was being held back.
Whoa.
Okay,
Mike,
that's different.
Dropped.
Well, because
That's different from what I was about to say.
A lot of cooks and a lot of chefs burn out because they're doing the same repetitive things for years
And they don't get the credit?
Not even. Listen, if you're a line cook, you will never get the credit. Ever. It's the chef and the sous chef. They came up with the menu. They trained you. It's in their place.
Wow.
And all respect to it because they built up to that position because they were doing the same thing that their line cooks were doing. They built up to that position working 6, 7, 8 years doing all the grunt work to now shining in their own moment.
So
and getting
Greg
the
wants
credit.
to be a star.
Greg is a star.
Well, Greg is a star, as he said. No, you said it, Greg. You're a star.
I'll
You're
say
in high
that.
demand.
He's so happy. He's like a dog when you scratch his belly and he gets so happy.
You're in high demand.
Don't scratch my belly.
You're doing several people's jobs at once because you're so good at it.
You are.
You're a star. Like that is how you know people love you, Greg, is when you reject them and then they get mad at you.
Yeah, they're like, oh well,
Yeah.
we told you you're worth this, and
And-
I said, I'm like, no, I'm not, and they get mad at it.
John Hinckley. Was it John Hinckley? No, that's the guy that shot Reagan.
Great
Reagan.
comparison.
Who's the guy that shot John Lennon? Oh no! Wait, no! It was John Hinckley shot that guy, paralyzed that guy who was the Reagan. I don't know, Secret Service. I don't know the story too well. I don't want to mess it up. But John Hinckley did it for what's her name? Doesn't matter. You, right? You want to be recognized for whatever. It's not necessarily you want to be recognized as a great chef or you want to be recognized as a great producer of content.
I don't want to be overlooked.
You want to be recognized as Greg Heinrich.
It was for like a while. I was very jaded with where I was at. And I get it. And I respect everyone that
What
works.
do you mean jaded?
Like I was to the point where like I'm worth this. I shouldn't be doing that. I almost like not hated what I was doing, but like I felt like I'm like, why am I doing?
You thought you worked too hard and too long.
Yeah, and I'm like, why am I still here?
Right.
And I think working at the restaurant before working with him is
In other words,
kind of saved it.
You didn't want to like grind.
I don't mind working. I don't mind
But you didn't-
grinding,
but
but
you
grinding to the point of being overlooked. Where
Well,
it's
you
like,
overlooked
where they
because you're
just
at the bottom.
they just expect me to do all this.
You didn't
And
want to
then-
spend. You didn't want to spend a lot of time at the bottom.
No.
You felt like you were languishing at the bottom. So why didn't you like try out for one of those cooking reality shows? Like that's what I would think. Like, all right, you can cook.
Next level chef.
No, seriously, you can cook.
So I don't ever in my life expect a golden buzzer. I don't expect anything to be given to me because nothing is given to anyone.
No, but I mean, like, you grew up watching celebrity chefs.
You want to be the fat Italian guy that's in the front of the restaurant. He does. You like know what I'm talking about?
No, I don't think he wants that either. So here's something I notice about Greg.
Diners, drive-ins, and dives.
I mean, yeah.
If I had to compare
Greg-
you to one, I compare you to him.
Gary is fucking phenomenal.
When you compare
Everyone
him
hates
to
on him
him,
for no reason.
100%, right?
Greg's kryptonite is when other people are getting laughs in a room. Because then Greg will try to go then and get the laugh. And he'll keep going back at it. Because he wants to be, the headliner. I think Greg would love to be a celebrity chef. And once he realized that goal was too far off working in a place like a kitchen, I think that's kind of what made you want to leave. And I think that you started seeing yourself as the star of this content that you and Anthony were creating. And you're like, well, if this could make me a star, then fuck working my fingers to the bone in the kitchen and cutting myself and burning myself and getting yelled at all the time. And, you know, these people with all these, you know, with all these hang-ups and, you know, and all these cigarettes and, you know, all this.
Cigarettes.
Yeah. I mean,
the
a lot of shit
cigarettes.
smoke.
The cigarettes.
You want to be like a personality. That's what you want to be Rachel Ray.
It was more of the it was more of the recognition.
Yes.
Like if I could
You
put it
also
into the
mentioned them.
word,
Very good callback.
if I could put it into a word, it'd be recognition for all the things that I did because I
And that's what brings us here
overworked
today.
myself. I overworked myself.
Sal, you should have been a shrink.
I overworked myself. Doing like I was putting myself out there, helping other people that didn't need the help because they have their own job, and I was doing it just to do it because I didn't want anything bad to happen. Where we're doing a certain party, we're doing a certain event, and something's not done, it's not my job to do it, but I also don't want anything to be fucked up. And it just got to the point, I'm like, why do I keep putting myself out there if I'm not getting the recognition?
Sal, what's your story with this?
What was the pinnacle of
Yeah, like
what
what
I
was the
wanted to do?
pinnacle of when you realized that I'm going to make this next step?
Music, specifically this type of music that I do, the standards, big band, was always something that I loved. It's not always something I saw myself doing, but in a very similar vein as Greg, you know, I really appreciated the attention that performing it brought me. And I also loved performing it. I loved, and I love now, being able to make it and create it, the music. As far as burnout goes, if you love something, truly, you don't get burnt out by it. It'll be the bane of your existence, and you'll still go back to it. A lot of things were out of my control growing up, you know, and that's kind of a world of my own. And, you know, I guess I kind of was always, maybe not, probably trying to be the center of attention. Growing up, I was, you know, on my, you know, to my grandma, I was her baby's baby. You know, my dad is the youngest of three. I don't know, like, it's always happened that way. And this was like, you know, this whole AGT thing was kind of like icing on the cake. I mean, but you, Greg, you really like want that spotlight. And I think that no matter what you do, you're going to find it. Whether it's cooking or social media, but it leads us to the reason why we're sitting here today.
Yeah.
Greg's been behind the camera for the last, you know, bunch of episodes. And I think that Greg is like, well, I want to get to the front of it. Greg is sort of stepping into the producer role of this podcast, and he's like, you know, I want it to be more of a conversation. I want it to be more three-sided. But I think that I proved to Greg today how important it is to put someone in the spotlight.
I needed a vent. I think that's what it was.
Greg, congratulations. You are the new producer of
Chindan.
Breaking Bread. How do you feel?
This isn't coffee.
Even after you stained Sal the Voice's
What I'm
shoe.
saying is I don't think that Greg wants to be the producer. Greg wants to be the star.
He does.
We should do a podcast where we just figure out Greg.
It's not breaking bread. It's breaking Greg.
I can guarantee that there's going to be a lot of people that are going to listen to this podcast just to see Greg.
Right.
No, I'm like completely convinced. podcast.
No, I know. I'm gonna get like my boys are like, yo, like you're on a podcast. I get random people I probably haven't talked to in like 5-6 years. Like, oh, you're on a podcast.
When like we had a
And my mom texted me like, oh my god, sweetie, you look great. You look so handsome.
nobody realizes his reach. When we had like a viral video, it got 15 million views. He goes, yeah, like I got a text from one of my friends in like Kansas, bro. And she was I was just like, who the fuck does he know in Kansas?
Because like
Greg's a traveler.
the one question that I always wanted to know was after AGT, what was the transition from that to where you are now? Like, what was like that? Like, how did you get to doing all the shows? I know the Paramount was one of your first things.
Honestly, I put up an email. I had a friend of mine answering the emails and setting everything up, Tommy Trance. And, it's just, people started calling. I got a call on an afternoon in October from a guy named Rob Mafia, who's my manager now. And he wanted to book a show at the Paramount in Long Island. And they gave me a chance. And from there on out, it was, pretty constant up until the pandemic. And then the pandemic happened, and I kind of changed how I did things. I have a friend who produced my last record. His name is Dave Damiani. And he is like the master. He is so efficient as a band leader.
Grandmaster Dave.
And I kind of had to figure out how to be a band leader, how to be more contained, how to travel the country with just books. And literally, that town car you see outside, right?
The boat.
During the pandemic, I was driving that all over the country with music, like kind of like the Green Book, except it was me and my father. And my father would set up a little merch table in the front, and try to make a few dollars. And I would do a show. I would teach the band the music and do a show.
Your dad's a legend. He's a gem.
He's the best.
He's a gem.
Old school as they come.
Yeah. Shout out Steve, the best. He really is the best. Greg, how do
All right, tangent coming.
how do you, Greg,
Yes.
become the celebrity that you want to be?
Producing the Breaking Bread podcast. Cough, cough, cough.
I think I should need to put myself out there more and just kind of stick with it instead of just wondering what I could be, instead of just actually doing it.
You got to step out.
Just got to do it.
So that's kind of the conclusion. This is just the beginning for Greg.
It is.
Greg is a star. Greg is in high demand. Greg is multi-talented, multifaceted. Greg is the man of the smart people.
I am the man of the people.
And you want to know what? I'll divulge this information.
Anthony's going to get sentimental.
Yeah. I'll divulge this information. I'm not going to say who, but a lot of people, when I was first starting to bring Greg around, told me to ditch Greg. Not even kidding you. And it really pissed me off. It really hurt my feelings because I'm the kind of guy where I trust you if I could bring you around. If I bring you around, my peeps, I bring them around you clearly.
Clearly.
Yeah. Like peeps.
No, but I'm serious.
I'll out them. I don't care. I won't actually out.
He has so surpassed any expectation that I've had of hey, Greg, you want a side job pedaling? Blew it through the stratosphere.
No, Greg has upgraded his equipment. Greg has I've been with you for a year now.
Yeah.
And what I've seen is Greg kind of step up, really.
This is a Greg appreciation podcast.
Greg, we appreciate you.
I appreciate both of you.
I wouldn't be where I am without Greg.
Greg, I have never seen such a bromance as Greg and Anthony.
I am Tommy Hagen.
Hector's going to get so jealous.
The Long Island Conciliary.
Greg Heinrich, social media influencer,
editor extraordinaire,
future celebrity chef,
bam,
and producer of the Breaking Bread podcast. You've said it all.
This isn't the Goofy movie. We're not snapping in a cafe.
I couldn't ask for a better show, better crew, better group of people that I'm around.
Couple stand-up guys right here.
Good night. Good night, San Diego.